to be front and center in many of the discussions. Now, I'm not saying the consumer doesn't have any responsibility, but that's not the consumer's responsibility. All right, what about the protection of the consumer? Okay, we got these different regulators, different rules. It's all confusion, as far as I can figure it out. I've only been doing this, well, since it was dinner table conversation. But what about simple things like errors in emission? How come an ICPM gets away with being without E&O? ICPM, Investment Council Portfolio Members, supposed to be the best of the best, so they say? But the consumer's more at risk? How can we let that stand? What about errors in emission insurance for insurance agents? In Ontario, I'll use that example. If the guy is an agent, he registers on renewal, copy of E&O, sent in. Great. Next day, let's go with E&O. The consumer left swinging in the wind. If he commits fraud, then unless it's taking the premiums for buying a product, it's not covered by the E&O endorsement. What? We're not protecting those who are being defrauded? How are we credible if we don't do that? Why are these the inequities? Because if it happens to a mutual fund dealer, they're on the hook. Is that the type of arbitrage we want of the bad guys? No. How about jargon? The consumer is protected because of the disclosure we provide to him or her. Yeah. Have you read the leverage disclosure forms that are handed out and as dictated by the MFDA? I've cross-examined on them. I've never met an advisor who could explain it. They could explain the concept, but they couldn't explain the form because it doesn't make sense. So where is the consumer protected? All right, you're an insurance agent, you're going to deliver the policy. You know the insurer, if they're going to fight a policy down the line when they're doing at-claim adjustment, do you think they're going to rely on the fine print? Have you tried to read those policies? I'm sure you have, actually. Gobbledygook 101. A mutual fund handing out prospectuses, and even the simplified prospectuses, are as much problematic. Not my first choice of words. If this is protecting the consumer, we're failing. If this is effective communication with the consumer, our whole industry is at risk, are you, as the people the consumer comes to. It's your reputation. You're the front line. You should not be letting this stand. You should be teaming with consumers to make this known. And to some degree, you are. For example, when Greg's comments again, what are the three components? Consumer was number one. I was invited here today. How come I'm not invited to the other organizations or my colleagues? How come the Investor Advisory Committee of the OSC was shut down with no action a number of years ago, the last consumer contact in a formalized process? How come? What I'd like to see is one license, one standard, one protection of the consumer. I'd like to see an E&O throughout. I'd like to see clear principles guiding all financial advisors and planners. Clear principles, not word after word after word of complex regulations. Clear principle with analogous grounds. This isn't novel. Lawyers fight all the time. Our regulator had to figure out how to make it clear so we couldn't get around the rules. Go take a look at what they did. It's effective. Clear principles with analogous grounds will catch the bad guys as they find new ways around the rules or the strict letter of the rules because we have analogous grounds. And we'll teach those principles in continuing education. That's something that I'd like to talk about as well, very briefly. Continuing education credits should not be given out for product promotion. Product promotion, when you tell about the benefits of a product, but do not tell about the holes in the product, and every product has them, every product, the comparative value, good and bad, to other like products and other products in the industry. Seg funds are a legitimate but different offering to a mutual fund. What's the benefit? What's the cost? We should be requiring that sort of disclosure. Now, I'm not trying to overregulate you guys through the back door. The good financial advisors have discussions with their client about these sorts of concepts, and they don't use industry jargon. They communicate. And good communication, this is the bottom line, good communications is good compliance. So let's get back to having advisors do what they do. Let's get away from dual licensing and arbitrage and, frankly, I think, misleading representations, because if all you got in your hand is one set of products, what are you going to recommend? And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just what we do. That's the type of discussion that I would like to have at the beginning of the regulatory cycle, not when I'm before a regulator, either defending an advisor or complaining on behalf of a client, or in a court. It's the wrong place to have the discussion. Thank you.